Alright guys, I am back with another from our scrap bin layout, and like I like to do with all of these, I want to start out by showing you how I chose my scraps. For my background paper this time, I'm just going to use white cardstock, and this is the photo that I'm doing, and it is my husband and our two of our boys. He went to go see them at college, and they live like literally a block from the beach. So that it has that beautiful sunset with those kind of corally peach and blues. And when I was going through my scrap bin, I thought these papers would work out perfectly with the colors of the photo, especially that peachy color. And it kind of goes with his sweatshirt. So I was really drawn to this, and that's what I usually do, is start with my my like multicolor paper, and then I start pulling in other things. Now this is from a Pretty Little Studio collection from 2009, and I have bits and pieces of the different papers. These were only 8x8 papers, so I pulled what I had from those papers. I did have one full sheet of it, but so that's what I've got, and then these with words. Now, and then this one here. So what I've done is, because I wanted a few more colors, I guess, to bring in different things, so I brought in this one to bring out some of that teal. I brought in this cloud paper, and obviously I'm not going to use all of these, but I'm bringing in whatever I think might work for my scraps. I brought in this yellow and aqua one. I brought in this little like strip I had. This is super old Amy Tangerine. And then I have this one, which was from just a 6 by, I don't know what the inches are, but from a paper pad. And then I just brought in some solid cardstock in blue, a scrap I had, and then this little piece with more blues. So those are my papers, and when I do this series, my particular goal for starting this series was to use up random embellishments that don't go, don't necessarily go with the collection, or that I've had for a long time, things I want to use up. So that's kind of my goal. So I think I showed before I have a binder of embellishments and stuff. So I went through that binder. I also went through my bin of embellishments, and I thought this washi tape might work. It's got that coral and blue. So I'm going to try to use up maybe some washi tape strips. That blue would go. And just see what I can use up. As you can see, I'm getting close to finishing this, and I am going to finish it. I also had some embellishments left over from this collection, so I do have some of those. This is just random things. These are kind of random from my stash. These are things from the actual collection that I pulled in. I pulled in this more as a layering piece because I wanted to bring in a little bit more of that peachy color. And I brought in this because, yes, this is got to go in there. Here comes trouble, because this is going to tell the story. And I will go on about the story when I get on to fast forward as I start creating. And then I brought in some wood veneer over here. I have no idea what I'm going to use. I have no thoughts at all on what I'm going to do. I'm going to put all of these embellishments aside, since those will be kind of the last thing I do. And I'm just going to start playing around with these papers and try to come up with a design that I like. Okay, so when I have lots of different smaller pieces of paper like this, I typically will cut them into a workable piece. So either into rectangles, or I'll take a punch to them. Now that triangle paper would have been really cool to do some sort of triangle pattern with all the papers, but I decided not to go that route. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a bunch of these papers and I'm going to cut them into strips. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and go with that kind of route and see where it takes me. The rest of my papers are already kind of cut into strips or rectangles already, so I'm just going to kind of go from there. At first, I thought I would put my photo towards the bottom left, or I was going to do it in the like bottom third maybe to the left, but I end up going a little bit of a different route. So my photo already had a white border on it. It was printed that way. So I'm just cutting that down so the white border is not quite as thick. I'm going to use that map paper and I'm going to make a layer. And then I'm just going to do just some fussy layers behind there. So I'm going to use the map paper, and then I'm going to use the cloud paper is going to be part of it. And they're not all, this is going to be a full layer. And the final layer, which is going to be navy blue, is a full layer. But the next two layers are just going to be strips. So I'm going to take a strip of the cloud paper and a strip of that yellow and aqua paper to the left. And I'm going to go ahead and back those as well. So at first I was thinking about putting my strips vertical, but on one of the strips there are words. So you'll see where I kind of change my mind once I realize I can't put those really in a vertical manner. Otherwise it's going to make no sense at all. So here I am just going to do some kind of wonky layers and then go ahead and get that backed. So I hope you will check the description box below, because I have some scrappy friends who are joining me, and they all are using scraps from their stash as well. And maybe you can get some ideas from them. It's really been interesting because we've all kind of used our scraps in different ways, and it's been really, really fun to watch. And what I love is my layout from last month is completely different from this month. Like, not even close to the same type of design. And I love the fact that you can really come up with, you can do a lot of things with your scraps. And you'll see where I go here, and I really love how it turned out. And I hope this inspires you to use up some of your scraps. So as you can see, that paper says, in yellow, it says adventure. And I wanted to be sure to use that somewhere. And I started, which I often will do when I have strips, is I started tearing the edges. Now, many people are afraid to tear. I have a tip for you. If you keep your both hands, fingers close together when you're tearing, you have a more controlled tear than... I am so sorry, I got a phone call right there just a second ago. So with the tearing, if you just take one hand at the top of a page and you tear down, you're going to have no control. If you keep your hands close together and you tear a little bit at a time, you're going to get a lot more control that way. So here I'm thinking, I'll do some strips to the left, and then I'll do some to the right of the photo, and then I'll do some up in the left. So kind of a zigzag pattern with blocks of those torn strips. And then I stepped away from the camera and came back, and I changed my mind. So now I'm going to show you what I decide to do. So now I've decided, no, I want to put all of my strips at the top of the page. So I'm just layering them up, kind of, using the paper, the sizes that they are, and just kind of putting them up there, tearing them, gluing them down, and filling in any spaces. Trying not to really show the ends of each paper, if that makes sense. So it's not like a blunt cut off of one of the papers. And then my photo is going to go up towards the upper right-hand corner of the layout. So I want to bring in some of that teal, but see how it doesn't go all the way across the page? I was really, really struggling with that. Like, how am I going to get that teal in there without, it just would not look right, because it would have a blunt stop to the left and a blunt stop to the right. So you'll see what I decide to do here in just a moment. Now, if you didn't want to do the torn edges, you could also ink the edges, and that would give a really cool, like, dimensional look if you didn't want to tear. But being that this photo is a picture of my husband and my children, two of my boys that attend college in Wilmington, North Carolina, and they live about a block from the beach. And behind them you have that ocean sunset coming in, and so I kind of liked the torn edges because it kind of mimics the layering of the clouds behind them. And I know the picture is not right in front of you to see that, but you will see that when we bring it back in, once I get the photo down. So I am just kind of still layering up, and I'm gonna find, I don't know if that happened already, but I'm gonna have to rip up a layer. That bottom layer that says adventure is too far over to the right to where the photo was gonna cover up part of the word. I might be seeing that right now. And oh my goodness, you guys, I had run out of my ATG tape, and so I was using score tape, and let me tell you, oh, I already moved it over. That was not fun trying to get that paper off with the score tape, but it worked. So, okay. So that's going to be kind of where my photo lies, and I'm going to add still some more layers because I'm just loving the look of all of these layers. Now that adventure, I'm going to kind of use that as somewhat of a subtitle. I'm going to have two somewhat like subtitles, excuse me, on this layout. You see here, I was trying to figure out how in the world to get that strip in there. And I don't know, I couldn't figure it out, but I am going to put it in there, but then I'm going to cover that up with another two pieces of paper that will go all the way across the top part of the layout. So I did put foam on the back of my photo, and I typically use just the craft foam from Walmart or Michael's, any craft store. And I like to get the adhesive kind. It's adhesive on one side. And I usually use those for my photos because I like to have just a nice solid layer under my photos. So here's these acetate tags. I want to bring those in just to add a little something else, and I'll go ahead and get those stuck down. This layout came together pretty quick once I decided on a design for it. Now I'm going to bring in the title, and I'm going to be using the navy. Oh no, I'm going to fix that top part first. So I thought, oh, okay, I have that, could go across the top, but I just wasn't feeling that either. And then I have this piece, and I'm like, okay, that will work. And then I'm just going to kind of butt up another piece the same width to that. So I really, really like how it turns out in the end because there's no like, excuse me, blunt like cutoffs. I don't know if that's even making sense. But I get to see a little bit of that teal peeking through. And I do have to trim off the top, which I did off camera. Now, this says this way. So basically, it's going to say adventure this way. And that is going to be one of my subtitles and one of the areas where I'm going to do a little bit of clustering. Now, I'm not going to be doing extensive layered clusters on this one, just because honestly, I didn't have a whole lot to cluster things up to use. So, all right, here's where the story comes in. The title is going to be Drinks on Dad. So my boys are 22 and 24, and my husband went down. He was only going down for the day to go fishing with them, and he ended up staying, deciding to stay the night. and he went out with the boys and their buddies to a couple bars right there near their house. And he announced to my son and his friends that, drinks were on him that night. And you would have thought, according to my husband, that these boys won the lottery, and granted, it was like $2 draft night or something like that. And so it didn't turn out to be really that much money per se, but these are poor college kids, and pretty sure he made their night. Now, let me tell you, that one, he did hang with the young guys, the college guys, and he very much was feeling it later that night, I'm sure. So to the right of this star, it says, "Here Comes Trouble." And so basically the title, all the different titles is Adventure This Way, Drinks on Dad, Here Comes Trouble. And it's not typical of how I would normally not add so many words on a layout, but it told the story so well that I just felt it worked for this one. And then I'm going to add my journaling under Here Comes Trouble. I'll just draw some lines out there, or I'll do it under drinks. One of the sides I have to decide, and I will handwrite my journaling, but I typically don't do that until later on before I put the layouts away. So I want to do a cluster at the bottom, and I had these little frames that came from the same collection as some of those papers. And so I layered up some frames, and I believe that's what I'm doing right now. And there's a blue frame and then a yellow frame. But then I wanted to bring in a little bit more color there. So I'm going to use this rub-on. I'm wondering, I think I've already put the rub-on down there. And I really, really love the additional layer and interest that adds to that little cluster. And those rub-ons, and they're clear stickers and rub-ons, are from Hobby Lobby. And then I had another one here that I decided to put up by the Here Comes Trouble. So, love that. And down below, I'm going to add that little label. I think I just moved it off to the side, but it says, "Enjoying every moment of this day," because I know my husband was definitely enjoying every moment. He loves any bit of time that he can spend with his boys. So I'm sure he was in seventh heaven hanging out with them. So I'm going to use another wood veneer star down there. And like I said, very minimal clustering. But because I had wood veneer in one place, which is that big star, I wanted to make sure that I had wood veneer in all three clusters. To me, that's just super important. Even if it was a tiny little star or a tiny little heart, I just like to have that uniformity across the page, that like item that will draw your eye throughout the page to tell the story. So I've got the big star there, and I'm going to put down Here Comes Trouble. And then the other open-ended star at the bottom left. And then up by This Way, I'm going to add, unless it's already there, it's hard to tell, I'm going to add a potty person, which is a boy potty person. I think it's already there. There, I'm putting glue on it right now. And that is going to be the main embellishing, honestly. And then I'm just going to take out my little binder with all my enamel dots. I do them by color, and they do not fall off. I know a lot of people ask me, do they fall off? And they really don't. And I'm going to add enamel dots. I've got a yellow and like a aqua blue star. And then I'm going to come back and add like a peachish colored star. To kind of finish off that cluster. And I think you saw at the bottom, I brought in a sticker, like a chevron type sticker from an old Amy Tan sticker sheet to put across the bottom. And you guys, that is it. I really hope you enjoy this monthly series. I'm having a ball just using my scraps, and I'm really loving how the layouts are coming together. I hope you will follow the ladies down below and leave us comments and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. We would love to hear from you guys. Bye.